Hi, in this video I'll show you how to write a Python script which accesses data, weather forecast data from a weather API and puts them in a text file. So this is our input empty text file, but after we run the script, we're going to get something like this. So forecast data, city, date, time, temperature, and the sky condition every 3 hours for 5 days. Let's see how we can do that. I'm gonna start by importing a request and then write a function get weather. Now, what variables we have here? Well, city and also units, which will be metrics by default. For other options, you should go to this page after you have signed up for an API key, because you also need an API key for this. So sign up on openweathermap.org, get the API key, and then go to this page and you'll see the parameters you have. So for units, you can enter standard, metric, imperial. So I'm going to use metric by default. And also by default, I'm going to have the API key equal to my API key. A colon, and then the next step is to construct the URL. Usually we use an F string, so that would be, we can go to the documentation. This is excellent documentation, by the way, so I'm going to copy that URL. That's an example URL and paste it in here. Add the HTTP colon / part as well. I know from the other examples here that you can also add and units equal to units. So metrics will go and replace that part. Now let's see if we got this correctly. Forecast Q equal to city, not city name. So this should reflect your function parameter. API key should be API underscore key. So the same as that. Units should be units. That's fine. Next, we create a response object. So requests dot get, and we pass the URL. And let's check the content, content.r.json. And I'm just gonna return the content just to see what we have so far. So city, let's try Washington. And run. And it seems like we got the JSON data correctly. That's fine, but next I want to dive into these data to understand them better. So I'm going to use the debugger here. I'm going to place the breakpoints in here so that this part is not executed and the execution freezes at this point, so that I can explore the content dictionary, this here that we got printed out. For that, I'll go to the debugger, start the debugger, run it, and we should see the content variable in here. It has this list key which has different dictionaries. So from 0 to 39, this corresponds to data for 5 days every 3 hours. So for 1 day we have 8 measurements, because 1 day has 24 hours. That means 24 times an interval of 3, we have 8 observations. So 8 for 5 days, we have 40. So 40 observations. These are all the observations that we have, and they are nested in the list key. So if we expand that, we have these other keys. So that's a dictionary. It has the main key. The main key has these other data. It has this date, DT, So let's try to keep that open and maybe try to loop over these 40 observations. So for item in content, so content is the dictionary, but we don't iterate over content, we iterate over content lists. So that will give us this list of 40 dictionaries. So again, content is a dictionary. This dictionary has a list key, and the value of this list key is a list. So that's the list, and this list, as you see, has 40 dictionaries. So one dictionary here, right, one dictionary there, and so on. So we're iterating over these dictionaries in here. So item now will be a dictionary, let's say for dicty, to be more clear. Let's call it like that. For dicty in content, so we're gonna get this first dicty, and what do we do with that? Well, let's print out, well, what do we need to print out? We said we want the city name, but we can get the city in other ways, and then we want the temperature, the date, and the sky condition. So the date, as I saw, was stored in this dt underscore txt. Therefore, how do we access that value? How do we access that for every dictionary? Well, dt txt is part of that dictionary. So print dicty dt txt should give us that date. So I'm going to stop the debugger and run the script and see what we get in the command line. So I'll also remove that return and run again so that we don't get both the content and the date. It's too much data. And these are the dates. So we were able to extract 40 dates. Now let's extract the temperature. And again, if I open the debugger, first let me delete that so that we don't have errors in the code. Otherwise, this will not execute. So the content, lists, and then if you open this dictionary, so we access dt.txt, but if you look inside main, you see it has a temp value. Now this should have been in Celsius degree, but it's not, because I put metrics. It should be metric, so I'll delete the S and yeah, stop it and run again, and then make sure the breakpoint is here again under the content variable. Remove other breakpoints and run the debugger. So content, list, and then we have these dictionaries, and under main we have temperature, temp, so 1.65. So we're talking about dicty again, and then main, and then from main we get temp, that one, right? And then lastly, we have to extract the sky condition, which is not in main, but it is under weather. Weather, and you have description. So again, dicty and weather, and then description. And actually, now weather gives us a list. So this will give us a list, not a dictionary. So that list has one dictionary inside. So therefore, from that list, we want to extract the first item of that list, which is the dictionary. The entire dictionary is the first item of the list. And then, so we place weather 0, and then we extract description out of that. So stop the debugger now and run the script. And we see that we got the data we expected, the date stamp, the time stamp, the Celsius degrees, and the condition of the weather or the sky, whatever you call it. So we got those printed out, but let's make a very small change in the code so that we write them in our text file in here. So let me delete what we have so far, and you need to keep the cursor here so that everything is added under that. And then we go here, and before the loop we want to open a file, data.txt. So that's the path to our existing file, and we open that in append mode using an A flag as file, and then we iterate. So now we want to get all that loop and indent it to be under the with context manager. So as we keep the file, so while we keep the file open, we iterate, and then instead of printing, we say file.write, close the parenthesis of the write method here and there, and then instead of passing multiple arguments to the write method, we construct a string, an f string. So f quotes here as well. Oh, we have an extra parenthesis, so remove that. The quotes goes in here. So that looks fine now. Parenthesis f quote at the end. Quote parenthesis. And then we place curly brackets to wrap these variables like that, and the last one, and run. Check data.txt. Yeah, it's almost okay, but we need to split those. So let's go back to the code. And what I would like to add is at the end, before the closing quote, I want to add a \n, which will create a break line between the data. So I run again the script, I go back here, and this is what we get. So this is appended to the existing data. By the way, anytime you execute it, new data are appended, as you see. So let's delete those again. All of them, run. Data are added in here. Run again, more data are added. So with that, you can schedule this script perhaps to run every 24 hours or every 5 days. And so you can build a continuous data file containing weather forecasts for a long time. And that's the final script. We don't need to return the content, so we delete that. So only 11 lines, but quite complex with these nested dictionaries that we've got here. So you have to be patient when it comes to parsing data. you have to be patient to understand the data first, and then know how to apply this nested accessing operations as we did in here. So I thank you a lot for following, and I'll see you later.